few minutes. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you here. I'm just going to share a brief about how this masterclass came about as the introductions are going on in the chat, right? Last year, I have a newsletter community, and I was sharing with them how last year I kept getting emails like back to back from people saying that they had goals, but they didn't know how to achieve it. And for me, I'm naturally like a fast, let me not hype myself too much, but a fast runner. So every time I have like an idea or, God gives me a vision, my feet are so quick to run. And it's a good thing, but it can be a disadvantage as well, because it's not every vision that is for running immediately. Sometimes you need to actually wait and go through a process, right? So, but I know that the strength about that is that every time I have a vision, every time I see, like, I just need to see something. Immediately I see, it's not difficult for me to run as fast as possible, right? And so when I kept getting those emails, it was as though I had, this gift to execute. And it wasn't common, right? It wasn't like everybody had that gift as well. And I just created this masterclass because I was, first of all, yes, tired of getting the emails that people were sleeping on their goals. And the thing is that when you're sleeping on your goals, your life is not moving forward because you're setting goals to move your life forward. So when you are not achieving your goal, you're literally like static, right? And I want to help people to move out of that zone. I don't want 2023 to be the year where December comes or, September comes and you're probably still looking at all the goals you set and you've not even been able to take action. And, when I asked questions about what do you want to learn from this masterclass, the top questions that came about were, how do I stay consistent all through? How do I get productive? Right? How do I set a timeline for my goal and then achieve the timeline without losing motivation? Right? And that is why this masterclass is here. That is exactly why I set up this masterclass. And these amazing women who are going to be joining in, today we have Oluwaseyi, next week we're having Edememe, and then the last Friday we're having Temilade Salami. And these women are women who you might even know them online, but they are women who have set goals, and because they've been able to achieve their goals, they've gotten to a point in their lives, right, where it is no longer difficult because there's that track record. And one thing I've seen about goal setting, even for myself, is that once you achieve one goal, it gives you like momentum and it gives you strength to keep achieving and achieving and achieving, and then you keep breaking records and moving your life forward. So like I said again, when you set a goal to move your life forward, right? For example, you probably set an income goal, or you set a goal that, I want to, get into a master's program and get a full scholarship this year, right? If you get that scholarship, your life has literally moved from one point to another, and that's forward, right? But when you don't achieve that goal, you're still there, like you're still stable. And that's probably because you did not take action. So this masterclass is to help you practically. So these people who are coming in, they're not going to be giving you like big stuff, right? They're going to be sharing literally their lives, right? And how they have been able to move themselves to point A to B. So as we start, just to prep your mind, because Oluwaseyi is literally her profile just blew me out. I was super inspired. And just to, prep you for, the value that she's going to bring in here today, I'm just going to read her bio. And, as she's sharing, if there's any light bulb moment, any aha moment that stands out for you, please put it in the chat, right? I'm sure that you definitely find other people who, that moment resonates with them as well. So if something just strikes out for you, you observe something or you see something. And one thing I know, like when people come together in a room, if the speaker is saying A, everybody is hearing different things. And so if there's something that's striking out for you, please put it in the chat and share it so that we can all share in the inspiration and the insights that you're getting. And another thing that I will say, just to make sure that this goal setting masterclass is not like just any class that you just attend, you listen in, you're inspired, but December, your goals are still staring at you. So something that I do that I think will be very helpful for you is that just get a notepad. I don't want to think that there's anybody joining this call today without a notepad. And that notepad, just divide it into two, right? The first part is insights, light bulb moment. You write the things that, oh, Oluwaseyi said is super striking. Then the next part is action points, right? So remember, you're dividing your notes into two. The next part is action point. So in that action point slot, you're putting in, what am I going to do based on this insight? That is how you're going to get transformed. That is how this masterclass is not just going to be ordinary for you, okay? So have your notepad, divide it into two. First part, insights, light bulb moment. This is amazing idea that I can try. Then the second part, put it into an action point. Number one, from today, I am going to, example, if Shay says, write out your goal clearly, I'm going to write out my goals, right? If Shay says, okay, this is how to deal with procrastination, I am going to practice this and make sure that you discipline and commit yourself to practicing it. That is how this program is going to be valuable for you. This 1 hour is expensive because time is so precious. And I'm not bringing Oluwaseyi here just to spend an hour here for you to, get, wow, she's fire, but you're not able to, translate this 1 hour. So make this 1 hour count for you by listing out action points that you're going to take and then committing yourself, starting from today, tomorrow, this week, to execute it at least one step at a time. Okay, so let me just read Oluwaseyi's bio and we're going to jump right into it. All right, so Oluwaseyi Moejoh is a 21-year-old environmentalist. Wow, she's okay. Let me just finish reading the bio. She's a 21-year-old environmentalist who is educating the next generation of young leaders about climate action and helping them build the knowledge and skills that they need to profile innovative solutions to environmental issues. Through our NGO, You Recycle Initiative Africa, Oluwaseyi has engaged over 10,200 young people, wow, across 14 states in Nigeria and 11 African countries. In 2022, You Recycle Initiative won a grant from the government of Canada for their Plastic Wise Fellowship, a leadership development program for young female undergraduates aimed at tackling marine plastic pollution in universities through a transformative behavioral change campaign. Oluwaseyi has received awards and accolades for her contributions to protecting nature and advancing youth development, including the 2022 prestigious Diana Award, being named a National Geographic Young Explorer, and being recognized as one of the top 40 teen leaders in the world by We Are Family Foundation in 2021. She has been featured on various media outlets, including CNN, Channels TV, TVC News, and more. Oluwaseyi is certified in nonprofit leadership and management from the prestigious Lagos Business School. Finally, this one is going to blow your mind. Oluwaseyi is an undergraduate studying law at the University of Lagos, Nigeria. So this amazing 21-year-old girl is still a student. Like she's studying law and she's doing all these amazing things. I mean, impacting 10,000. Wow, that is, I mean, if it's not mind-blowing, what do we call it? Impacting over 10,000 young people across not just Nigeria, but African countries. Welcome, Oluwaseyi. Thank you so much. I mean, this is so good. It's so good to have you here. Welcome, Oluwaseyi.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so pleased to be here. And I'm so happy. When I got the invite to come and share this, I was really happy because it was never like this at first. It was never like rosy with all the achievements. It was really hard. It was really difficult. But like out of all of these hard experiences and all these things that we faced, I'm so happy that I get to share this with you. So you don't have to go through all of that. So you don't have to go through all of the things that are going to happen. Not that you will not eventually go through any, but perhaps this might just be a kind of you could get very useful nuggets that can help you to not even make mistakes in the first place, to maximize your time and to achieve more. So thank you so much for having me. And I hope to share so much with you about the next couple of minutes.
All right. Thank you so much, Oluwaseyi. Wow. Okay. So as she had said, she did not just get here. It's been a process. And there's a quote that fly around that it says that the success of I think the success of stories. So I'm just going to paraphrase it, okay? So if I don't get it right, if you know it like verbatim, you can just put it in the chat, and that would be very helpful. The success of people lies in their stories, or how did they say that? Basically, people's successes reflect in their stories. How they got to where they are reflects in their stories. And so, Oluwaseyi, can you just walk us through? You're an amazing young lady. You're doing these amazing things, and you are managing it and still excelling as a law student in University of Lagos. So can you walk us through, what does your daily routine look like? What do you do every day? Because I believe that, like you said, you did not just get here. It is a process. And there are things that you've applied yourself to every day. There's a system that's working for you that has helped you as a 21-year-old to get here. So what does your daily routine look like? Just walk us through what your daily routine looks like.
Okay. I'm always very like, when it comes to daily routines, I'm always like running away from that question, but because my life is very fluid, like it's very unpredictable sometimes. For instance, we had ASU strike that happened, and during that period, my daily routine was different. And then we had now we have school, right? And trying to get back to the flow of school, trying to balance my expectations and my responsibilities at my NGO, which are both equally important. So right now, how I start just to answer the question directly, if I digress a little, right now, how I start my daily routine is I start off by praying, right? So I've come to understand how powerful prayer is to like shaping everything. There was a particular point in my life when I used to feel that prayer wasn't absolutely necessary. Like, oh, God should understand that we are so busy every day. It cannot be every day I should pray. But then I got to understand that talking with God can bring so much clarity and direction to your life. It can help you advance so much that can help you preserve and maximize your time. So right now, I always start my day by praying, mostly speaking in tongues, reading my Bible, and doing what I can essentially. And it helped me in terms of understanding that I'm actually talking with God and not just praying in code, but actually I am communing with my Father to get insights for the day and directions for the day, right? Then after that, I prepare for classes, right? Classes can be very hectic. So I go for classes, I go for tutorials, then I come back. I probably may have a prayer meeting towards evening on some days, and I come back home, right? And in between those things, I also work. I also coordinate my team members. However, at the beginning of each week, most weeks, not all the weeks, but most weeks, I give out like a guideline for my team members so we all know what to do and how to fix that into our different daily activities, because at least half of us are students at University of Lagos, surprisingly, and we're still pushing through, we're still pulling through, trying to still see how we can find the balance between our schoolwork and our daily work. However, people used to ask me, how do you find the balance? And that's one thing I would like to talk about now. The two things I would like to talk about is priority and seasons, right? Understanding seasons and understanding how to prioritize. So now, I have not really found the balance with my schoolwork and my NGO work. However, I understand how important they both are to shaping my future. I understand that in life, we have a toolbox. So my education is a tool in my toolbox. My NGO work is a tool in my toolbox. I also speak professionally, so that's a tool in my toolbox. I have different tools. The more tools I have, the more I can be more advantaged in the future and even in the present to create a better world for myself and for those around me, to offer value to others and in the process grow myself, right? But most especially to a larger cause, because I'm just so sold out to like empowering people. I'm so sold out to seeing how I can build projects and solutions that literally change people's lives and help the environment. And that is the cause I'm currently working on. So prioritizing. So at each given time, it's important to understand seasons and how to prioritize in that season. So when it's time for exams, or for instance, now we have like a very long time before exams, I understand that I need to start reading, right? And it wasn't always like as a law student, you have to always read, because if you don't read, you fail, sadly. So like, funny enough, it's not all rosy, right? Trying to balance everything, because at some point one part might be succeeding and then one part might be failing, sort of. But then, even in your failures, it is so important that you do not identify yourself by your failures, but rather see them as experiences that you try to derive lessons from. Because if you do not derive lessons from your experiences of failure, and you decide to then use your failure as your identity, right? So let's say I failed in my law course, for instance, and I use that as an identity for myself, that I am a failure. I'm doing myself more harm than good, right? However, it is worthwhile that I sit down and reflect on what made me fail in the last course or last semester, and what should I do differently moving forward, right? So that's another thing, learning from experiences, understanding seasons, understanding priorities. So that's how I balance my life. So right now, my life doesn't have a steady flow, but these are some of the things I do to understand that this should be prioritized at this given time, and this should not be prioritized at this given time. And this is the season for this, and this is not the season for this.
Wow, this is so powerful, right? And I feel you, because I get a lot of questions from people asking, oh, Aramide, you are a mom, you run a nonprofit, you are a wife. How do you do everything at the same time? And I usually say, people who have followed me for a while know that I always rule out the word balance, because it's like a myth. Like, how do you balance everything at the same time? I think a better word to that would be juggling, right? Sometimes when this goes up, this other one goes down, and it's fine, right? So let me just share a real story. So last year, I had a baby. And when I had a baby, I had to double down on a lot of things. My newsletter family felt it. And I'm so sorry. But I had to double down on a lot of things, especially on social media, right? Because I wanted to be present. I wanted to spend more time. I needed more time at that phase of my life. And, last week, Sunday, I was invited to speak somewhere. And, a couple of I was talking to a couple of young women, and I was telling them that, the fact that I had to drop all those things at that time to face my newborn baby is just a phase. It's just a season of my life. It's just a season. At this time, like last year, October, last year from August to December, I couldn't have done this masterclass, because that was the phase where I needed to focus. And that brings me to when you mentioned priority, because it's just understanding that this is my priority at this time. So how can I focus on this thing? People, young women that are in school, they might be wondering, okay, she's in school, she's doing this nonprofit thing. But I know that there are times in your life where, okay, nonprofits, please stay one place. I need to graduate.
Yeah.
I need to graduate, right? I need to get an A in this class, or a B, or the desired result that you want. And nonprofit, please hold on. And there are times where the school is doing okay, and you can now say, okay, let's run at full speed at this nonprofit space. And it's so important that people learn that if you want to achieve your goal, it is important that you know your priority, so that you're not here and here and here and here. When you're everywhere, you won't do anything. You won't do anything. So first of all, in goal setting, you need to highlight your goals by prioritizing. What is my priority in this season of my life? Is my priority to increase my income? Or is my priority to grow my community? Or is my priority to focus on school? Is my priority to raise more funds if you run a nonprofit? Is my priority to get promoted at work? What is my priority at this season of my life? So it's so important to understand the times and seasons of your life. And when you're setting goals, you list out priorities, right? You list out priorities so that when you set a goal, it is contextual to you. Like, you're not setting a goal just to say that you have goals. Contextual to you. And it's so important, right? Understanding times and season, which is so powerful, and having priorities. And she also talked about failure, having the right perspective to failure, right? It is a learning curve. You are not a failure. right? The fact that it didn't work out does not mean that you're defined by that thing. And that's just so important, right? But, Oluwaseyi, you talked about how, you're in school and you're also doing this nonprofit thing. But there are people whose life goals are connected to them being at school, right? So with the way, and I'm asking this question because we have quite a number of students on this call, right? And so with the way the school system is sort of messing around, especially public school system, right? How are you making sure that you're moving forward with your life without the school system holding you back? So even if the school system does not want to be serious, how do you move ahead? Because you cannot tie your life to the school system, right? The years that go by, I imagine, I don't know, what the strike, I know that the last 8 month strike was horrible, and I don't know what level you are in doing your law in your law school right now, right? But I know that you probably should say that, oh, I should have 2021 if not for the strike, right? There are people who should have graduated since, like, since, but the strike has held them down. And especially for people whose life goals, whose life mission are connected to this thing. If you're studying law. So for example, someone who wants to become a lawyer, that's their life's mission. How do they move their lives forward without holding back, like without the school system holding them back from that dream?
All right, thank you for that wonderful question. So, I'll first of all speak from my perspective and slightly of my personal story. So, at some point in my life, I used to be an entrepreneur. Like, I used to sell stuff. I had this little business called Aspen Creation. My sister now handles the business, but I used to make things like phone cases as young as like 15 when I was in secondary school, SS1. I used to sell phone cases. I remember making my first 10,000 naira, and I was so happy. My mom was so happy and everything. And I went on to make like hundreds of thousands of naira years after and everything. So like, there was a point in my life when I used to do entrepreneurship, right? And I used to sell stuff. And things that personally I've always found it so difficult to just stick to only school, right? And I don't know why. It's probably because I came from a background of my parents. My parents, like, they have so many things they are doing, and I was just so excited by that diversity. You understand? Having like school and then having like your passion going along with that. However, beyond just passion, because passion, yes, that's a cool thing to say, but beyond that, I give an analogy of a toolbox, right? So let's say you have a plumber come to repair your sink, and then he doesn't have a vital tool available to solve that particular problem in his toolkit. What happens? Either you would tell the plumber to go and you get somebody else, or you have to wait for him to get the tools available. That might take more time, more money, or something. So in summary, it's always good to go the extra mile now while you're young, to maximize your time now while you're young, to garner as much experience as possible, right? To give you an edge. So when we all leave school, I'm currently in 300 level. I'm supposed to have graduated this year, but thanks to ASU strike, I'm in 300 level. So now I've come to understand that we have a lot of people come out of school and say there's no work, there's no job, there's no work. But there is a lot of jobs, there's a lot of work, right? It's just that we are not in the right position, or we do not have the right skill sets to access those job opportunities. We come out like everybody else. We come out with a certificate like everybody else. So what actually makes you to stand out? What's that different tool in your toolbox that makes you to stand out, right? How are you harnessing your talent? So if you have a good talent at public speaking, for instance, how are you harnessing it? Or you have a good talent at writing, how are you harnessing it? You understand? Or even if it's just leadership, okay, you are leading like some networks in your school. How are you going the extra mile through those platforms? You understand? And not just for personal gains or interest, but how are you also lifting others in the process? How are you also lifting others in the process? So in summary, whilst you want to, like, I don't know how best to frame this, but yes, going to school is absolutely important, especially in our culture here in Nigeria. It gives you access to rooms that you need your certificate to access some rooms. So but when you get into those rooms, what will you do in those rooms? What makes you stand out from the rest when you get into those rooms? Do you understand? So like, and that sometimes comes from our talent and our passion and how well we can harness it. how well we can build our capacity on those things, right? How well we can leverage the resources at our disposal to create a life for ourselves. There are a lot of wonderful opportunities for young people doing great things for the environment, for the planet, for children. So like, how are you through your passion or your talent or your skill set benefiting perhaps the SDGs or benefiting your community, like your community? We have stories like, we have Aramide's story, for instance, is very inspiring to see how she started with like the public school in her community through Teach Nigeria, and see how far she has come, right? So like, all these things make you stand out. In this day and age, you can't afford to be like every other person. And it's not that when you stand out, you are better than others. You just leveraged your resources to become more unique, so that when they say, oh, we have a lot of people standing here, how do we select the right person? We go for you because you have more skill set, more experience, and bringing you on our team brings value. Why do we go to school? Because we want to be valuable. We want to be valuable. If we understand how powerful value works in our world, we understand that it's a game of value. It's a game of value. Last year, I had a particular team travel me to South Korea, pay my honorarium, pay my flight ticket, pay everything, because they knew the kind of value I was coming to offer, right? Someone else might not be able to get that, or someone might even get more, depending on the level at which they have invested in themselves. So what and how are you investing in yourself to make yourself stand out, to also help you achieve impossible goals, help you achieve extraordinary goals? One of the things I work towards is how can I be extraordinary? I'm not working to be better than anybody, but to be better than the past version of myself. I know that who I was last year cannot be the same person this year. I have receipts to show for it. Even myself, the way I think now, I am constantly growing. So how can you constantly evolve? Because if you're constantly growing and evolving, it shows in your quality of life, and it also shows not in your life, but in the lives of others. So the summary is, invest in yourself as a student, no matter what you want to focus on. How can you invest in yourself to make yourself valuable in whatever space you want to position yourself in the future? So that's the summary of that, I would say.
Wow. Okay. So somebody will have to tell me how a 21-year-old is this wise. How a 21-year-old is this wise. I need to understand how that happened. This is so good, right? And I feel you on that positioning. There are a lot of people who graduate from school, and one thing that I've seen, in that happens in the job market is that a lot of people bring in people to their team because of the value that it can offer. Let me just share a quick story. So last year, I had an intern who was working with us at Talent Mind, and this girl was in, I think, 200 level, and she was adding much more value than any other person, like even the professional. And at the time, I think she was probably 21 or so, super, very young girl, but she was adding much more value. And by the time she was done, this was the period of the strike time. And by the time she was done, like, my first question, I was so sad when she told me that she was going. But then I was asking her that, please, can you join our team as a program manager? Because even though she did not have a degree, she had the skill. She was offering value. Like you said, it's a game of value. Thank you, Aramide. Like, it's that, just brought the perfect word out of my mouth. It's a game of value, right? So even as a student, there are things that you can do to move your life forward. I usually tell people that when I was in uni, I used to take tutorials, but I didn't know that taking tutorials, in uni, just those random tutorials that you just take just to help people because you just understand the concepts, right? Just to help people. Taking that tutorial helped me when I got to, I started teaching during the Teach Nigeria Fellowship. That excellence that I built, it was at display. And it was because all the while I was teaching, I was perfecting my teaching skill. I was perfecting how to design qualitative learning experiences for people, right? And so when I got into the classroom, it was so easy for them to notice me. It was so easy. Like, it wasn't difficult. Within a term, the teachers in the school already knew Aramide, right? And that was because of the result I was able to drive. So it's a thing of value. And I was just leaving school when I joined that fellowship, right? So it is a game of value. how can you be valuable even though you are still a student? There are things that you can do as a student. There are talents that you can earn. There are work experiences that you can take advantage of, like internship, right? That you can always take advantage of to improve.
Volunteering too.
Exactly, like volunteering. So if you're probably like, don't always keep looking for a seat at the table when you have not tried to put yourself to volunteer. It is volunteering that helps people to see that, okay, this is the real deal. Like, this girl has the stuff we're looking for. And then they can now bring you in. So sometimes when you're not able to get yourself at the table, when you're not able to get the seat at the table, even as a student, you can volunteer your way through and be valuable. And as Oluwaseyi said, investing in yourself makes you valuable. And that's why, I'm so proud of everybody that's here, because this is an investment. This session, the aim is to help you to set goals that work, set goals that you can achieve this year, back to back. And this is an investment, right? And this is going to make you valuable, because when you're able, like I said, your goals are tied to your life. So when you're able to move your life forward, there's no other display that you carry value than when progress is showing in your life, right? So thank you, Oluwaseyi, for saying that. And I just want to ask a question. And this is a question that a lot of people, I'm sure that it will resonate with a lot of people. We started this year in January. January to December is a long time. Let me not lie. It's a long time. January alone, 31 days. At least this January was even faster than the past Januaries that we've had. So January to December, is a long time, like 52 weeks, 365 days. It's a long time. And you set that goal in January. Most people set their goals by, January 1. So they have 364 other days to go. How do you make sure that every single day of the year, every single month of the year, every single week of the year, you are able to stay consistent and, remain motivated? Or I don't want to even use the word motivated, because it's sort of like a trap, because you will not always be motivated.
Yeah,
right?
Discipline.
Perfect. So let me just finish the question so you can just drop the valuable insight that you have for us. So how do you stay consistent every single day of the year?
Okay, so I think this ties to like the general, like I want to see how I can kill two birds with one stone. So how I can like mix this up with like how to set the right goals, right? How to goal setting, you understand? So I think it all boils down to, first of all, setting the right goals. And before I joined this session, I actually did a random search on Google, like, okay, how to achieve goals in my life. And I think in just 1 second, over 770,000 results showed like, wow. You understand how, how Google, so like there are tons of information online. You've probably gone to a program or something about setting goals. Like, so this is not probably the first time I heard about setting goals. And I just wanted to see how I can ensure that every person leaves this masterclass with a fresh perspective, with much fresh insights that stand out in some way, right? Or like that provides more perspective, more understanding on other existing principles you've already learned over time. So the first thing is setting the right goals. So like, you want to be consistent on something, it boils down to the foundation. What are the goals you are setting, right? And why are you setting these goals? Asking yourself crucial questions. For instance, if I say, I want to get a car because I saw that somebody else got a car, right? It doesn't balance. But like, if I say, I need to get a car, for instance, because I want to, I have a very busy life. This might help to ease the burden of jumping buses and all of that. And then this is like a more intrinsic reason why I want to get a car. And then I then create a goal towards raising money over the year to buy a car at the end. So maybe I have a saving plan of, let's say, PD Best, for instance. I'm saving slowly and surely so that at the end of the year, I have a car, right? So that you see the flow of that. So setting the right goals, first of all, boils and being consistent at it boils down to why. Why are you setting your goals? Are you setting your goals because it's the beginning of the new year and everybody's saying, what are your goals? What are your goals? And you just want to follow the frenzy. And yes, it's important that you set your goals, but don't feel pressured to just quickly set your goals at just like, everybody's setting their goals, let me set my goals now. It took me like a couple of weeks to set my own goal. Like, I didn't even set it for the whole year. I set it for the quarter. So this is what I want to achieve this quarter. These are the 4 categories I want to improve on. And I'm already making slow progress, gradual progress. I won't say slow, gradual progress towards ticking off those goals on my to-do list. The next thing I would say is, I'm sure you've heard this before, setting SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. So I'm going to emphasize on realistic and understanding times and seasons, as we talked about earlier, but in a more broader perspective. So now there are some goals that we said that aren't realistic. They aren't realistic at all. So imagine me saying I want to get to America in 2 hours right now. Okay, I want to get to America in the next 2 hours. I don't know whether it's a magician you want to use or you want to use, I don't even know, because it's not possible actually. So like setting goals that are actually realistic helps to prevent you from being overwhelmed, right? Being overwhelmed. However, there's some time that you might want to be very ambitious. For instance, I had an experience last year. I was trying something out and I was very, very ambitious for my team because we had this we are going through this particular competition that is really intense. I'm going to like see how we can push our boundaries. And God, I went through a lot. I knew that the goal I was setting was realistic in the short, well, not realistic in the short time. However, I just wanted to be ambitious to see what we could pull through. So as they say, shoot for the stars, you might land, shoot for the sky, you might land among the stars, right? So sometimes, yes, you can be ambitious. You can choose to just want to try to pull yourself beyond, like stretch yourself, you understand, to see how far you can go. Mind you, it comes with a lot of intense lessons and intense experiences. But then, even if you don't get your goal at those instances, always look out for lessons. So the summary is times and seasons. As you know, for instance, take an orange tree, a number of years to grow, right? You should be very careful to understand that you are being realistic and patient, understanding the principle of time, right? So that you know that there's some goals that take a lot of time. So you have to go through the process. You cannot jump, you can't skip the process. It's a process, right? And sometimes you might feel like nothing is happening, but you are actually changing.
Yeah.
Few months down the line, you look back and say, I wasn't this way before. What happened to me, right? So it all starts from understanding that time and seasons, there's the central universal law. A mother takes in the first month, she gives birth by 9 months. If she gives birth by 4th month or 5th month, that will be a premature baby. And the child might most likely die because it didn't go through the proper process of things. So be real with yourself, set real realistic goals, and understand the reason why you are setting those goals. Then now narrowing down. Because a lot of people want to, you feel that, if you have a lot of goals, you can achieve more. Yes. But even if you want to have a lot of goals, like so many goals, if you can put them into categories, that will help you to stay organized so that you know, okay, this is what I want to achieve per time, or this is the sphere I want to improve on. You understand? Okay, my academics, my work, my speaking engagements, my this, my that. So you know how well you're organized and what you are doing in those parts. And the final point on times and seasons is understanding sowing season and harvesting season. The first point I'll make on that is a lot of people sleep during their sowing season and then they wake up during the harvest season and expect that something magically will happen. You want to get a job and you're not applying for opportunities, or you're using the same CV to apply for 100 jobs and you expect to see a difference. It's not possible. You can't expect a different result when you're constantly doing the same thing. So the question you should first of all ask yourself is, how can I do things differently? And what seeds am I sowing? How am I watering my seeds? What sphere am I focused on for now? What is my season? And I think we do during our season that we get carried away. So you might be in your sowing season and someone else is in their harvest season, and then you are then looking like, oh God, when is it going to be my turn? And it is your sowing season. You're now being carried away. You're comparing yourself. The time you should have been using to plant your seeds and water your seeds, you're then carried away with, oh, XYZ is flying around the world. She's doing this, she's doing that, or she's doing. Focus on your seed. Plant your seed. In each of those categories you've outlined now, how are you sowing seed in each of them? What opportunities are you applying for? Who are you reaching out to? How are you building your capacity? How are you investing in yourself so that you can bear forth fruits in time? Because harvest time would always come. It is going to surely come. You cannot skip it. So does sowing season come. So don't skip in your sowing season. When I was much younger, there was a particular story, folklore about ants and sowing seeds. The ants went to sow seeds, and there's a particular, I don't know, it's a very old story, but in summary, if you don't plant your seeds, you don't expect seeds. Just like imagine a farmer going to the farm and saying, "Oh, you want to go and harvest cocoa yam," when they did not even sow seeds, or even if I thought they sow maybe like bitter leaf, and they want to harvest cocoa. So you have to harvest you have to sow what you want to see. So if you want to get results in a particular place, what are you sowing now? Lastly, building on the right foundation. I always pray about my goals. So before, it wasn't always like this. I used to just be, oh yeah, let me just go into this. Yeah. So actually, I had a very intentional encounter from God last year that changed my life drastically. Like, I was told, Sherry, God was literally telling me that, Sherry, can you carry me along in your goals? Ultimately, everybody has a purpose for their life, a plan for their life. And we should not try to do this by ourselves or by our power. It is so intrinsic that we are praying, we're in constant fellowship with the person that gave us this very life, that gave us this very purpose. That is only when we can find meaning, even when things are rough. That is the only time we can find meaning, right? That's the only time we can stay rooted. So we're not carried away when things do not go well. We're not carried away by other things. We are focused on our journey and flourishing while at it at every given point. So carrying God, being in a constant fellowship with Him, being in a constant fellowship with Him, being in trying to just pray with Him, just trying to flow with Him, essentially, not trying to walk outside Him. I'm so sorry if I'm going fast, so that I have a lot to say, but I'm also I'm not sitting down the time. Then summary. Even Aramide mentioned that God gives her a vision to run. Like, being open-minded to what God will have you do, and not just what you want to do for yourself. Not just what you want to do for yourself. Then so applying the right principles, so learning from others above you. What have you seen work for them, and how can you apply that to yourself? Nothing is new under the sun. So how can you learn from others, your mentors, role models? Focusing on your journey, I mentioned that before. Asking for help. You're not Superman or Superwoman. Please, if you have a problem, ask for help. If you can delegate your tasks, right? It's not by who does it alone. If the more you have people around you, the further you can go. It's an African proverb. So try to see how you can build your community, you can help others, and they can also help you. So you can all progress in your journey. And lastly, willingness and your mindset. Let me tell you, to be successful is not easy. It is not easy at all. It's fancy to say I was featured on CNN last year, but I know what I went through. Last year. It was difficult. It was terribly difficult. But I understood seasons. I understood that I have to work hard for this season, because very soon there'll be a harvest season when I'm going to be celebrating. And now I'm sowing in tears. I'm hoping that I'll reap in joy. Do you understand? So understanding, even what we are going through now in Nigeria, let's say the fuel issue and everything, or the cash issue, is a season. Very soon, perhaps our economy might boom again. But we have to go through this for a season now. So in summary, I hope that these principles can help guide you in setting the right goals and being consistent while at it. Thank you.
Wow. Like, is it just me that's having goosebumps? This is really good. Like, this is good stuff. And, Oluwaseyi, just to buttress on everything that she said, right? She said, first of all, the question was, how do we stay consistent? For those who are just joining, how do you stay consistent with your goals? I was mentioning how 12 months is a long time, right? So how do you ensure that you're consistent? And the first thing she said is how important it is to know why. I mean, it's so important. So that even when you want to give up, you think about your why. Once you think about your why, you bounce back. I was saying that I just had a baby, and there were times when I was pregnant, I'm like, okay, can this thing end like already? Can we be done already? But then if we were done the period I said I wanted to be done, then I probably would not have a baby right now, right? And that's because I knew my why. So I was able to go through the 9 months, because I knew that one day my baby is going to come. right? And that also relates to how important it is to understand your times and your seasons, like knowing that this is sowing time. So because it is sowing time, I might be doing a lot. And this is for someone. I might be doing a lot and nobody will see me, right? I'm in that preparation season of my life. I'm doing a lot. I'm building structures. I'm doing this amazing thing in the closet. Nobody's seeing me. Nobody's celebrating me. But then understanding times and seasons gives you the right perspective to know that this is just for a season, right? And after this season, it will be harvest season. As Sheyi said, harvest season would always come. Like there will always be harvest. It is impossible for a farmer to plant, except if that farmer plants and does not water the seed. But as long as the farmer keeps showing up consistently, watering the seed, he is going to harvest whatever he has planted. I went for a retreat in January and I was learning about the bamboo, right? They said that when they plant the bamboo takes about 6 years to gain roots. Like for the roots to get stronger, it takes 6 years. But once the bamboo sprouts, like it takes 6 weeks for it to become like, I think it's how tall, I don't know, but super tall tree. I mean, you all know the bamboo tree, right? But then 6 years of that process, I mean, somebody had to keep watering this thing on and on and on. And if this person had given up, then, I mean, there will most likely be no bamboo tree. But then when it was harvest season, it was so fast. There was a momentum, right? So it's so important. And understanding your times and seasons will also help you with comparison. Like when you understand that this is my season, I mean, as I'm using my pregnancy story because that's like the latest season, sowing and harvest season I've gone through at this time. I could not be envying someone who had given birth when I was 5 months pregnant. I could not be, because I knew that I was in a season of sowing, of taking care of my baby, taking care of myself, so that when it is time, I can have a healthy baby, right? So it is time and season, and it helps you with comparison. So if you're struggling with comparison, you probably lack perspective on your time and season, and you need to go back to think about it. As Oluwaseyi said, you need to prayerfully also think about it and speak to God about it. What season am I in? Am I in the planting season, or am I in the harvest season? And when you have planted, you will not have the confidence to call forth your harvest. You will not have that confidence to say that, oh, no. Bishop David always say something that I would be surprised if I'm not here. Because there was a season of his life when he kept planting and planting and planting and planting. And so if there's something that everybody is seeing right now, the harvest, is because it took time to plant and he was consistent in that process. So as you're, giving yourself to your goal, know that there is that seasonal phase, right? So that period where you have to be consistent, it is a seasonal phase. As I was saying at the beginning, when you start achieving your goals, it takes a period. You get momentum and you get track record, and it will not be easier for you. There's some things that Oluwaseyi cannot struggle with at this point because she has grown. Like she has gotten momentum and she has grown to a large extent, and she might not be able to struggle with these things. But there's a breaking point. Once you go through that breaking point, it's like speed, literally. Right? So understand your times and seasons. Know why you're sowing. Know why you're setting this goal. Why am I setting this goal? Don't just set the goal because your friends have goals. Like, don't be under any pressure. Respect. Like, don't let anybody put you under any pressure. Respect your time and season and pace yourself. And one way that she talked about pacing herself, is how she has been able to break down her goal quarterly. And when she said that, there was a book that came to mind. Right, and I'll just share this book in the chat because it's such a powerful book. The 12-week year. I don't know if we've read it, right? The 12-week year, but it's such a powerful book that teaches you how to break your goals into quarters, right? And a system that literally it gives you like a system that can help you to achieve your goal every quarter. So that way something I want to say is that sometimes the goal that you're setting for a year is a goal that you can achieve in one quarter. But because of all the time you're wasting, the time you're on social media, the time that you're doing this, you're distracted. I like that you mentioned priorities, because when you have your priorities, you now know that this is what I should focus on right now. And laser focus is a superpower. Once you're able to focus on your goals, like just give it laser focus, you will move. You will move. So right now, for example, for me, I'm currently in a season where I'm like, okay, I want to grow my YouTube channel. So I'm putting in a lot of content there. I'm putting out content in there so that people can see it. This is something I'm focusing on. And because I am not trying to grow so many things at the same time, there's laser focus on one thing. And because there's full attention on that one thing, it will grow. It will grow, because the resources and the time that you will spread across, once you put it in one, the growth of that one will be very fast, right? So it is very important that, especially if you're living a fluid life where things are unpredictable, maybe you don't have a job, or you're still trying to get things around, or you even have a busy life, and you want to achieve your goal faster. I like this book because it is very practical, and I'm recommending it because it will be very helpful for you, if you want to make progress in a short time. Setting your goals, like I said, the goals that we set in a year can be achieved in a quarter, if only we're able to, number one, laser focus and manage our time well. And this book is just such a powerful resource to help you, right? And she said how important it is to focus on who, in as much as you're trying to achieve your goal, the process of achieving your goal, there's that process of how it changes you as a person. In church, my pastor usually says something that is important to focus on who you are becoming, right? So as you focus on who you are becoming, sometimes that is why it's very easy to stay consistent. Like one thing that makes it easy to stay consistent is knowing that it is a process, and it is all about who I am becoming. It's all about who I am becoming. So for example, you set a goal that this year, let's say you set a spiritual goal that you're going to pray every day, right? You miss, about 2 or 3 times in a week, but you know that it is a process. You're becoming a person of consistency. So sometimes the fact that, like, consistency does not mean that every day you'll be showing up. It means that you don't fall down and stay there. It means that when you fall down, you will stand up and try again. That is what it means to be a consistent person. So don't get it wrong. That's simply what consistency means. It doesn't mean that every day you show up, because there's some days, like, your planning will not be perfect. It can be unpredictable at some point. But consistency means that the day that you don't stay on the ground, the day that you fall, the day that you miss a day. There's something my coach Liki always says, that when you miss a day, don't miss 2 days in a row. So when you miss one day, plan that the next day I'm going to make up for it. I'm going to make up for it, right? So it's so important to make sure that you are focusing on who you are becoming. And when you focus on who you are becoming, you'll be so much focused on the process more than the outcome. Because sometimes that goal, you may not achieve it, but you will know that you've gone through that process, and it has made you to become somebody that if you set that goal next year, you will hit it, because you have gone through that process. And that is what helps you to stay consistent. That's what helps you not to give up, because you are not focusing on the wrong thing. A lot of people focus on outcomes that they miss out on the process, and they miss out on the kind of outcomes that a good process can generate for you. So it is important that you focus on who you are becoming. Pace yourself. Don't put pressure on yourself. Don't use somebody else's life on social media as a yardstick for how well you are doing. Focus on who you are becoming based on God's pattern for your life. And as she said again, I'll just buttress this, that how important it is to ask for help. And something that she said that I found so super powerful was, the more the people around you, the farther you go. And I'll add, the faster that you're able to go, because the kind of things that those people can see, if you can't see them, they can easily communicate it to you, and you can avoid those mistakes. You can avoid those pitfalls. You can see the ways that you can move your life forward. And, this has just been mind-blowing, right? Every time I have to keep thinking, is Aisha Oluwaseyi that, because you have to let us know, is this your age, correct? Are you this age? Because this wisdom is just so good. And I know that it has been helpful for everyone, that has joined this call. And, if you're here, you can just put it in the chat. Let us know, like, what's one thing that has stood out for you in today's session? What's one thing that has stood out for you? And, I have so many other things that I want to ask, but I want us to, close out at 8. And just as we close out, I just want you to share, like, okay, if there was one thing that you are going to say that everybody who has attended your session today, they should never forget in terms of goal setting, in terms of productivity and moving their lives forward, what would that thing be?
Okay, I would say prayers. Prayers changes so much. I don't know if you had to ask me the secret of my life is prayers, because it was through prayers I got wisdom like this. It was through prayers I got help from people. It was through prayers I was led to the right thing. I was led to how to build my capacity. I was also led to see that my failures are not my identity, but rather I should reflect on them to learn powerful lessons moving forward. So one thing I would say is prayer. I know that, I don't want to get too preachy, but like, please pray, I beg, because it used to change, like, it literally changes your life. It changes so much in you and for you and through you, and it's really amazing. And I hope that through the recording you get to like still derive some nuggets, because I know I was fast at some point, and I apologize for that because I talk fast sometimes. But I believe that there are so many nuggets that were shared through this short time we had, and I pray that it helps you derive life-changing principles moving forward. Life is about principles. Discover the principle that applies to your space, and then see that work. And even if you fail well at it, don't see failure as a bus stop. See it as like, as the ending. See it as like a kind of transition. Like, it's always beneficial at some point. Don't always look at it from one perspective. See it from multiple perspectives. It can change so much for you. So thank you so much for having me.
Wow, thank you so much, Oluwaseyi. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. This has been so insightful. I mean, not just for me. I was taking notes because, there's just so much value in here. The insights that Oluwaseyi has said. And one good thing is that she has come here and she has literally shared her life. Like, this is her life. This is not theory. This is her life. So if there is anything that you see that is working for this young girl, it is replicable. You can get there. And, it's easier for you now because she has shared all these things. She has shared all these things. So the only thing you need to do right now, as I said in the beginning, I hope that you truly listed, action points. So make sure that those action points that you have listed, starting from tonight, latest tomorrow, start executing it one step at a time. Start executing it. Don't start everything at the same time. Pace yourself. Start with one. When you get momentum in that one, you move to the next. But make sure that everything that has been shared here, you're able to practicalize it, right? You're able to practicalize it. That is how that is how things like this can work for you. That is how people's lives change. It is action that changes lives, not just attending programs and jumping from one seminar or webinar to another. This is not just an ordinary webinar. This is a webinar that was designed to move your life forward, right? So all you need to do right now, all that is left from this value, like, it now lies in your court right now to start taking action to move your life forward, right? So I'll drop the book in the chat again because I see that someone's asked. Okay, thank you so much, Aramide, for dropping. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining the call today. It's already 8 o'clock and I want us to end, as promised, by 8 o'clock. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. So next week, we're going to be having Edememe. And Edememe is such a phenomenal woman. Literally, she's a senior manager at KPMG and she's juggling different things. So if you're someone who, have different responsibilities, that session is going to be very helpful for you. If you're also a career person and you want to progress so fast in your journey, especially in the workplace, then that session will be super helpful for you. Thank you so much, Oluwaseyi, for your time and these valuable insights that you shared with us. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Let's have a good night and a great weekend. Bye, everyone. So I look forward to seeing us next week, and then let's invite our friends. Just share them the link and then they'll get the invites. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.